Welcome to Block 6 of our Crazy Patch Block of the Month. This month, our special technique is applique. Because the appliques will be applied to the surface of the block for the embellishment, there is no need to manipulate the pieces of fabric before the pieces are cut and stitched together. You can simply use the fabrics that were provided in your kit and assemble 4 blocks using the same technique that you've been using all along. Included in your fabric kit are several lace appliques and a length of ribbon rose trim. The lace appliques will be used after the 4 blocks have been assembled in a random fashion, placed on flannel backing, and then embellished with thread stitching. The ribbon rose technique requires a slightly different application, but if you intend to add either of these by machine, you're going to need a walking foot for your sewing machine and some invisible thread. Applying the ribbon rose trim to your blocks is usually done before your blocks are assembled into groups of 4. The simplest method is to choose a seam that goes from side to side on your block and apply the trim directly to that seam so that the ends of the ribbon are trapped within your seam allowance once your blocks are assembled. However, if you should find that you would like to apply your ribbon trim to a seam that starts in the center of your block, it's a simple matter of using your seam ripper, opening up the seam, and inserting the end of the trim inside the seam allowance. Also included with your packet is a paper template that will be used to construct fan shapes. You'll need to trace this pattern off onto a scrap of freezer paper or template plastic in order to cut your pieces. Apply the template to your fabric and cut out the exact shape. Once they're cut out, fold them in half with the right sides together and press the length of the fan blade. Now we're going to stitch across this end to create the point. After the point has been stitched, you want to trim the corner of the fold at a pretty severe angle so that when you turn your blade right side out, you have less bulk in the tip. Now I'm going to open this up and position the seam line directly on the center fold of my fan blade, and I'm going to press the seam open. After the seam has been pressed, you're ready to turn your fan blade right side out. You want to have a nice crisp point, and I like to use a simple number 2 click pencil that has a point that isn't necessarily as sharp as your scissors to poke out the top point. Now I'm going to go to the ironing board and press so that my center seam lines up with my center fold, and all of my fan blades will be exactly identical. The top edge of my blade is completely finished, and when I've stitched them together, these seams will be finished as well. You will need to make 4 blades for a corner fan or 8 blades for a side fan. You're going to find your fan appliques helpful when you begin to assemble your blocks in groups of 4. If I add this fan applique to the corner of this block, it will help distribute this aqua teal color throughout the block. Don't forget you're going to have stitching and other embellishments added as well, so you don't want to overdo the fan appliques, but they're also helpful if you feel that you have too much of one shade. This can help cover it up. Now these appliques need to be added before you assemble your blocks so that the edges of them are trapped in the seam allowance. If the blocks have been assembled, you can add full fan appliques along any outside edge that will help distribute the color, create interest, and add a decorative element to your block designs. The lace appliques that were provided in your kit are to be added after all of your stitching embellishment is done and all of your beading is in place. These appliques can be used to help blur the fact that you've assembled 4 blocks together, making it look more like an authentic crazy patch. The appliques can also help to distort the fabric that's provided underneath. If you feel as though one piece is too strong or a little too bold for that particular square, applying the lace will soften those shades. The dragonfly appliques that were provided in your kit have jointed tails. It's best to use a steam iron to curve them for a more natural look when you're appliquing them down. These pieces can be secured by hand or machine, or using beads over top of the wings and the tail to secure them in place.